Hi, I'm MiGHTYMAX and Team Endpoint, and welcome to Above and Beyond, where I'll be giving you insight into the world of Pro CS in hopes of improving your own game. We will be showing on Ancient some utility to take middle control as a T, followed by the importance of mid control for both CTs and the Ts. So help understand sort of how the map's going to work, and also to get you thinking about how you want to take mid control. We've sort of theory crafted this mid take a few months ago, where it involves your teammates to drop you some nades. So you start by coming to this corner over here, and your teammate will drop you his smoke anywhere inside this area here, and then you can set up towards mid. And then ultimately what it looks like is you have one person here, and you can have, one teammate taking mid, or two or three, however many you want. But the lineup for the smokes are like this. So the window one, you aim on this black tile here, and you just jump through. And this deep connector one, you put your grenade pin where this area is missing, like this, and you run and jump through before you hit the wall here. Then it should look like this in middle. So you have a deep donut smoke, as well as this window smoke here. Now, the benefit of this grenade set is that when you take mid, it means that you can take all of it. So what I mean by that is you can clear out this area with a molotov, you can take mid with two players up to here, and the CTs have no idea how many numbers you can be mid, right? Because it can't have any information gained from here as it's smoked off, and then obviously in the window here, again, they're smoked off. So you get full mid control, which I'll talk about later, about why it's good. But yeah, this mid take, you can only really do mid round. But the benefit of this mid take is that actually you can set up in different ways. So for example, you could set up heavy towards A and drop like additional smokes here. Let's say you drop 4 smokes here, and you can send one teammate mid with this nade set. But then actually, rather than taking mid, your main focus is towards A, and then straight away you can set up more A nades. For example, the donut smoke, or you can do like CT from here, etc. Right? So that's one cool thing about this nade set, is it's pretty flexible. And the same thing can be said for B. So you can, again, your teammate can drop you a grenade. You can do the mid nade set, but you can be 3 guys waiting B doors, for example, or 3 guys ready to contact B, something like this. So that's the one benefit about this grenade set, is that you don't need multiple people to throw it. All you need is one teammate to drop you a smoke. You can set up in different areas of attack. Right, so going into the full mid control, when you have window and donut smoked, the benefit this gives you is that it's a lack of information from the CTs. So when you have all of this control, the Ts can very much dictate what's going to happen next. So for example, it's very easy to A split and B split off of this mid control, because obviously you can sit in the donut smoke and you get the advantage over the CT holding, same way that you have the advantage if you sit in the smoking window. One thing that teams like to do is when they take mid control, they pair it with a deep CT smoke. I believe is this one, so that when they have this window control, immediately they can split A from deep CT spawn, which is another good aspect of taking full mid control. So the drawback of using this utility in particular is that if teams know that you're taking slow mid control, is that it's quite easy to counter in terms of blocking this choke point here, because all they need to do is re-smoke, right? So this is one thing that you need to consider when using this utility, is that you need to have different solutions for problems, and maybe you want to pair this with a slightly faster mid take, and then going into sort of slower mid take, as ultimately like one smoke or one molotov can completely deny your use of 2 smokes. So another drawback of this utility is that to be very careful, because obviously you're dropping utility here depending on how you set up this mid take. Obviously A tunnels is very weak unless you're holding it, but if you're holding A tunnels, it means obviously other parts of the map are weak. So when you have to really think about different rounds you want to use this utility with, so that there's not like a massive gap that the enemies can exploit. For example, if you're taking mid with 2 or 3 people, then A would be weak, so that there is a potential that the CTs could push. Whereas you're taking mid with maybe one person, then you could have 1 or 2 people with A tunnels ready to go A. But that's just something that you need to consider when talking about these rounds if you want to use this utility. So on Ancient, it's a fairly new map, and a lot of teams are still figuring out sort of how they want to play the map, as well as what seems to be working the best. And a lot of teams have different ideas, but I think fundamentally all teams seem to agree that mid controls is the most important area of the map because of how large the map is. So for T side, if you take mid control, you open up possibility for obviously direct site splits on A, CT spawn, and B, because you can take back lane control here, but it also opens up the fast rotations from each area of the map, right? So from B, rather than running T-spawn, you have this rotation possibility here, right, from this heaven position. So you can instantly come middle to A, and vice versa from mid to B. So that's the importance of it on T side, is that it lets you have much faster rotations between the map. And the same can be said for CT side, which is why a lot of teams would want to dominate mid control, because once you have mid control as a CT, again, rather than playing without information, you have everything you want in middle. Also, you can always have a quick rotation to B through here if teams do a direct B rush or some sort of B go or B default. And you also have a lot of kill potential from this position here, as normally what happens is T's will default towards B, and you have this position here where you can spam down through smoke, etc. Then if any A hit comes in, you can be very quick to rotate into donut. So that's kind of the underlying objective of mid, is to take all of it on both sides if you're T or CT, and then it enables you to have much faster rotations everywhere. And it also limits information on both teams. So for example, if the T's had full mid control, then the CTs have to be in this position where they have no idea how many numbers are mid, and also they have to gamble on whether you actually, for example, took 2 people middle, or it could just be 1 person and you're ready to hit a site instantly. So if they do push, then they're just gambling, right? Same way if CTs take middle, then it really limits what the T's can do, because if you have middle, then you also have a lot of B pressure on them. It's very uncomfortable for the T's to play B if you have mid control, just because you can always peek up here, right? And then it just forces them into uncomfortable positions where they have to either retake mid or directly hit a site. And on this map, it's very I think the bomb sites are a little open, as you can see on A. Same thing on B, so that they're not that difficult to retake. So that's kind of the importance of mid control for CT side. So the most common CT mid take is as follows. Obviously, you need to have a lot of utility for this, but you do a deep molotov like this, which lands in the elbow choke point, and your teammate would throw a closer molotov like this. Now what this does is obviously denies them peeking behind the molotov, and also if they come out, they're going to be burned in this molotov, right? So this is the most common CT take, but obviously there are some counters to this. For example, there's AWP peeks that people do where they smoke in this corner, leave molotov out, and then they can peek behind this molotov, right? So when you're crossing, they can shoot you. Other things such as this smoke out here denies the closer molotov and lets you play out in the close mid, right? So when it comes to dictating mid control of CT, you have to think about what the enemy team is going to do to try and counter you, so that you can have a adequate mid take against it, right? So when it comes to taking mid as a T, it's very helpful to have flashes supporting your teammates or whoever's going out middle here, so that when they come out middle, that if they're in open positions, they're going to be blind. So the best way to do these flashes is from T-spawn. The lineups can differ. For example, if you're setting up a smoke from here, you can just instantly flash from this position, right? Whereas you might want closer flashes, which you can do from this position, like so, and use aim above this little dot here in the tree. And this will take out everything close middle. So it's important to communicate what flashes you require when taking middle, because for example, if you have no control over mid and the CTs have this smoke, then maybe you want to have this flash, for example, because then if they're close, you can just pop out and they're blind. Whereas if you have some sort of lurk on mid, you would want the regular flash from T-spawn, because then obviously it's going to blind a lot more towards the CT side of mid, right? It's going to land up here. If they're holding any angles, either up here or even down here or in this position, they should be blind, right? So it's very important that you find lineups that suit you, that you can remember them, and that when your teammates ask for it, or if you're the one taking middle, you know exactly what flash you want. There's another phenomenon on this map with the skyboxes, which I think a lot of you would already know. You can actually throw molotovs from T-spawn into mid. Now it's quite significant because it's very hard to do this on other maps, so it's quite unnatural to see when you're CT. But what it does is that it puts a lot more pressure down on the CTs, for example. Like when you do the insta window smokes and you're throwing these molotovs, the CTs have to decide whether they're going to fight middle or not. And usually it also baits out more utility from the CTs because all of a sudden going donut, they have to take some damage, right? So what you'll often see is that CTs will smoke this molotov and then fight mid behind it or something like this, So it's quite easy to take middle with these magic molotovs because you can actually do them on both sides. There's a way, so obviously you have the line up here, which I use, and this area here, normal jump throw, but there's also ways that you can do it. There's 2 spawns, so you have the B spawn, and you also have spawn, so spawn 2 and spawn 4, they have directly from spawn, you can throw these molotovs, which is something that I believe FaZe do. The way you do this is you should crouch, you aim roughly here, walk back and jump throw. Then instantly from spawn you have this molotov, then what was it, spawn 2, again you aim on like the same height just on the other side, so you aim roughly here, you crouch, walk back, jump through. This one you can aim more right so it lands a bit deeper, but again this does the job. So you end up with 2 molotovs in middle instantly from spawn, which obviously is quite uncomfortable for the CTs. So it lets you take mid a bit quicker. Obviously there's going to be counters to this where they can smoke it and have a one-way smoke, etc. So that's something you have to consider when doing these molotovs.